May 4th, 2007, 9:45 p.m. A tornado nearly 2 miles wide is approaching Greensburg, Kansas, and at once, almost an entire town will be gone in less than 5 minutes. 95% of Greensburg is either flattened or torn apart. Winds estimated near 205 miles per hour, grinding homes into bare foundations, as if the town had been erased on purpose. 11 people will not survive the night. More than 60 will be injured, and this will become the first EF5 tornado ever rated under the brand new enhanced Fujita scale, only 3 months after we replaced the old system. The first F5 or EF5 in the United States ever since the 1999 Moore disaster 8 years earlier. But here's the part that makes this even harder to believe. This was not supposed to be the big day for severe weather. On the morning of May 4th, 2007, meteorologists were already anticipating severe weather in the coming days due to a strong upper-level trough that had pushed itself into the United States. An upper-level trough is a large-scale area of low pressure in the atmosphere that can enhance storm development by promoting rising air. The system was expected to fuel severe weather over the next few days. Initially, May 4th was considered the least likely day for significant severe weather. This was because the trough had not fully matured. Meteorologists use the term mature to describe a system that has reached peak strength and is most capable of producing severe weather. In this case, the trough needed more time to develop its full potential. Typically, these systems take a couple of days to mature, meaning that they can generate the highest winds and lift needed for thunderstorms to initiate and rotate. On the morning of May 4th, the trough appeared to be lagging or falling behind schedule, leading to expectations that it would take the full day to mature. Consequently, meteorologists predicted that May 5th would have been the most favorable day for conditions for severe weather. However, the reality was far different. The storm accelerated unexpectedly, and by the evening of May 4th, it had intensified rapidly. This led to the development of a powerful supercell thunderstorm, a type of thunderstorm characterized by a rotating updraft that produced one of the most devastating tornadoes in U.S. history. As the afternoon of May 4th unfolded, the atmosphere over central Kansas began to change. The air near the surface grew warm and humid, while winds higher in the atmosphere were shifting direction and increasing in speed. A set of meteorologists call wind shear. Wind shear is crucial because it allows thunderstorms to rotate, giving rise to the supercells that can spawn tornadoes. Meanwhile, the region had enough instability, meaning the warm, moist air near the ground was eager to rise into the cooler, drier air above. This rising motion is what fuels thunderstorms, and when combined with the strong wind shear from the upper-level trough, the conditions were finally right for the storms to form. By late afternoon, small thunderstorms began popping up across the area, feeding off this energy. Most appeared harmless at first, but one in particular began to organize, developing a rotating updraft, the telltale sign of a supercell. This storm would soon become the deadly tornado that tore through Greensburg that night, catching many by surprise despite the forecast predicting the worst for the following day. Before we focus on Greensburg, it's important to remember that the storm system on May 4th produced more than just one tornado. By afternoon, a storm in Ellis County, Oklahoma, dropped a small but surprisingly violent tornado. In meteorology, the size of a tornado doesn't determine its strength. Its power comes from the wind speeds it generates and the destruction it leaves behind. That early tornado was a warning sign that the atmosphere had all the ingredients needed for something far more dangerous. Earlier in the day, much of the region had been held in check by what meteorologists call a cap, a layer of warm air above the surface that prevents thunderstorms from forming. As the day progressed, the cap weakened, allowing storms to finally break through and tap into the unstable, humid air. And even though the day didn't appear all that favorable, with some uncertainty here and there, especially with the lagging trough and a weak low level of jet, there's a reason why the Storm Prediction Center issued a moderate risk for May 4th, 2007. Forecasters recognized that if storms could break the cap and take advantage of the instability and wind shear in place, the potential for strong tornadoes was real. That's exactly what allowed the first tornadoes of the afternoon to come to life. In total, more than 20 tornadoes would be reported across Kansas and Oklahoma that day, but none compared to what was coming. After the Ellis County storm, a few other storms managed to produce tornadoes, but they were generally weak and short-lived. This gave the impression that the atmosphere wasn't quite ready to produce anything significant, and many still believed May 5th would be the bigger day for severe weather. But in truth, the atmosphere was still highly unstable, and another critical ingredient was just beginning to arrive: the low-level jet. This is a fast-moving river of air a few thousand feet above the ground that often strengthens after sunset. At night, the ground cools and the air near the surface settles, which reduces friction and allows the winds above to speed up. On top of that, the cooler air to the west and warmer air to the east created a stronger push or pressure difference that accelerated those winds even more, giving storms extra fuel and spin. Without it, the setup on May 4th might have fizzled out overnight, but instead, it primed the atmosphere for the supercell that would go on to spawn the catastrophic Greensburg Tornado. At around 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the Greensburg supercell formed over western Kansas and began tracking due north, with left splits emerging from the storm. In this type of storm mode, supercells often split, and when they do, the left moving storms usually drift away from the primary rotation and rarely produce significant tornadoes. Meanwhile, the main storm continued feeding on the warm, humid air, and wind shear in the environment generated incredible rotational energy. As the low-level jet ramped up, it injected even more energy into the storm. By 7:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the supercell split again to the left, but this time smaller rotations merged back into the main storm, forming a cyclic supercell, a type of storm capable of producing long-track, violent tornadoes. Cyclic supercells rotate continuously, creating the potential for multiple tornadoes over an extended period. By 8 p.m., the storm began producing small, weak tornadoes near its updraft. These brief tornadoes, sometimes called satellite tornadoes, formed quickly but were short-lived due to the motion of the storm relative to the rotation. Typically, tornadoes produced by a supercell travel parallel to the parent storm, allowing the updraft, the column of rising warm air that powers the tornado, to sustain the rotation. In Greensburg's case, 4 small tornadoes were briefly produced but were quickly absorbed back into the updraft before they could grow stronger. While weak, these early tornadoes were an ominous sign. The atmosphere was highly unstable, wind shear was strong, and low-level jet had now fully energized the environment. Minutes later, the supercell rebalanced itself, and one dominant rotation emerged. Moving along a more northeastern path, parallel to the storm, it strengthened rapidly. As it tracked along US Route 183, the tornado briefly shifted west, a movement meteorologists call deviant motion. Deviant motion occurs when a tornado moves in a direction that deviates from the usual path parallel to its parent supercell. While such shifts often indicate weakening, in this case, the tornado intensified, placing Greensburg directly in its path.
Went through protection. It was like the Energizer Bunny. It just kept going and going and going up through central Kansas.
Storm chasers and spotters were urgently relaying real-time observations to meteorologists at local TV stations, emphasizing the tornado's unusual intensity. On radar, the storm displayed a well-defined hook echo and extreme rotational velocity, indicators of a violent, long-track tornado capable of catastrophic damage. Within just a few minutes, the town would experience one of nature's most ferocious phenomena. Every building, street, and resident in Greensburg lay directly in its path, leaving no margin for error or escape. By 9:19 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the National Weather Service issued a tornado emergency for Kiowa County, including Greensburg. Tornado emergencies are extremely rare. They are reserved for storms posing a catastrophic threat to human life and property. At 9:45 p.m., the EF5 tornado fully engulfed the town, with winds estimated at 205 miles per hour and a peak width of nearly 2 miles, almost the entire width of Greensburg. The destruction was total. Unlike most tornadoes, which strike only parts of a town, this one obliterated every structure. Even the least damaged homes suffered severe roof or structural damage. Every resident, building, and street endured the full force of this historic tornado. After devastating Greensburg, the massive EF5 tornado continued westward before attempting to loop back towards its parent storm circulation. However, the tornado's inflow became disrupted, essentially choked out by competing processes within the storm, and it finally dissipated, but the danger was far from over. The same supercell would go on to produce 11 additional tornadoes over the next several hours. Remarkably, 3 of these were strong, long-track tornadoes comparable in strength to the one that just obliterated Greensburg. This sequence of powerful tornadoes showcased the true nature of a cyclic supercell, a storm capable of regenerating its internal rotation and spawning multiple violent tornadoes, one after another. The Greensburg supercell became a textbook example of just how persistent and destructive and rare these storm systems can be. In the aftermath of the disaster, survey teams were brought into Greensburg to determine just how strong this tornado really was. Meteorologists and structural engineers examined every single building in town, analyzing the destruction down to find details. Their conclusion was undeniable. Greensburg has suffered an EF5. A handful of structures were completely obliterated to the point where only bare foundations remained, confirming the highest rating possible on the scale. This rating carried historic weight. The Greensburg tornado became the very first EF5 recorded under the new system, and it was also the first F5 or EF5 tornado in the United States since the infamous Bridge Creek Moore, Oklahoma F5 in 1986. 1999. As recovery efforts began, it became clear that rebuilding Greensburg would be neither quick nor easy. Roughly 95% of the community had been destroyed, leaving residents with a choice: leave and start somewhere else, or rebuild from the ground up. Many families relocated, but those who stayed made a bold decision. If they were going to rebuild, they would rebuild smarter. This tornado was an EF5, nearly 1.7 miles wide, tearing straight through a town that was only 2.2 miles across. Wind speeds were estimated around 205 miles per hour. 95% of Greensburg was gone. 11 people lost their lives and more than 60 were injured. Hearing numbers like that is one thing, but every single one of those stats represents real people, real families, and a town that was forever changed. Honestly, the fact that the death toll wasn't higher says a lot about the warnings that went out, the meteorologists working around the clock, and the residents who took cover just in time. The story of Greensburg is more than just a story of destruction. It's a testament to the power of nature and the resilience of a community. From the first tornado that touched down in the Texas Panhandle to the catastrophic EF5 that tore through Greensburg, the events of May 4th, 2007 showed just how quickly the atmosphere can shift, turning what seemed like a quieter day into a historic disaster. Meteorologists and storm spotters worked tirelessly, issuing warnings and alerts that undoubtedly saved lives. Even 18 years later, in May 2025, the region faced eerily similar conditions. A potent upper-level trough combined with an energized low-level jet and abundant instability led to another powerful cyclic supercell. Though Greensburg was spared this time, nearby Plevna experienced severe damage from an EF3 tornado, a reminder that the plains remain vulnerable to these violent storms.
You are a promise.
Greensburg itself has since been rebuilt, stronger and smarter, serving as both a memorial and a model of resilience. These storms leave behind more than just debris. They leave lessons about preparation, forecasting, and the incredible force of nature that demands both respect and readiness. The Greensburg Tornado of 2007 will always be remembered as a defining moment in meteorology and of those who lived through it. And while we can never control the weather, understanding it, studying it, and learning from it can make all the difference when the next storm approaches.
You are the desert plain where the wild horses run. I want you to know you're the first song. I want you to know the grace you're made of. I want you to feel that you're